afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amal Mukhtar. This is a new edition of Africa Today. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi heads to Kenya, Nairobi, to attend the Africa Forward Summit for the African-France partnership. The president will be delivering Egypt's address to Africa-France Partnership Summit in Nairobi and taking place on Monday and Tuesday. The Africa-France Summit focuses on economic development challenges. The summit also, the French President Emmanuel Macron and more than 30 African leaders will kick off a summit in Kenya on Monday aimed at diversifying Paris partnerships on the continent and clinching new investment deals.
The Africa Forward Summit is the first France has organized in an English-speaking nation since it began holding such events in the 1970s and follows a series of setbacks in former colonies in West Africa that have moved to reduce French influence. The convention opened with a meeting of business executives attended by Macron and Kenyan President William Ruto at the University of Nairobi. In addition to more than 30 African presidents, deputy presidents and prime ministers, attendees included executives from leading French firms. During a state visit on Sunday, France's Emmanuel Macron announced that France shipping group CMA-CGM planned to invest 700 million euros to modernize a terminal at the Kenyan port of Mombasa. Kenya hopes to use the summit to attract French investors looking to take advantage of the Pan-African Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, which is being rolled out across the continent. Ruto also wants to advance talks on making the global financial system fairer to heavily indebted African countries, a campaign France has pledged to support. The Kenyan president will attend the G7 summit next month in Evian-les-Bains at the invitation of France, which holds the group's rotating presidency. The Kenyan foreign minister said his country believes it is a good thing if critical outcomes of this meeting can also be mainstreamed as critical agenda items by the G7. France has traditionally had its closest African ties in its former colonies in the west and center of the continent, but is confronting rising anti-French sentiment. Coups since 2020 in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger brought to power military officers who expelled French troops and invited in Russian mercenaries. France also handed over control of its last major military facility in Senegal in July, after the Senegalese president said French bases were incompatible with the country's sovereignty. At a news conference with Ruto on Sunday, Macron downplayed the absence of some leaders at the summit. He noted that several West African heads of state would be there and said France was still seeking connections with people from those countries.
Welcome back. To shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone our dear guest, Her Excellency Ambassador Sou'ad Shalaby, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon.
Well, Your Excellency, our first question is concerning the participation of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the summit and delivering Egypt's word to the summit. How do you see the importance of Egypt's participation in this summit being the gate to Africa for the all countries, especially to France?
This is a very important summit that combines all the African countries with France. It's called Africa Forward, and President El-Sisi is very keen to attend this two-day summit in Nairobi, Kenya. The relationship between the Egyptian president and the Kenyan president is very good, and the two countries share a lot of important agreements since the independence of Kenya. So President Sisi is very keen to attend. He is supposed to deliver Egypt's address to the conference and to hold bilateral meetings with African leaders. And of course, as you know, that the summit is focusing on strengthening Africa-French partnerships. So the African countries who are attending are focused on the partnership with France, of course dealing with economic growth, digital transformation, energy and financial system reform.
Yes, and the importance of participation of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who is about to arrive in Nairobi today to deliver Egypt's word to the summit.
Egypt, of course, aims to strengthen African-French partnership, and of course, the agenda of the meeting is very important for Africa and for Egypt, especially that that Kenya is not is an African country that has not been part of the French colonies. It is the first time that the Africa-France summit is held in an English-speaking country, and this is of course held since. As you know, that there was a dramatic collapse of relations between France and a number of West African countries like Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. That is why the summit is held in an English-speaking country, and of course it means that it is an apology for colonial wrongs by France, and of course it is focusing on the small businesses approach, because Macron leadership focuses on economics and partnership with African countries in the field of small businesses, and developing new alliances outside of French alliance. That means that the French president is focusing on other countries other than the French colonies that were during the past. Is trying to create new partnerships.
Yes, this is a very important point, of course, Your Excellency. With the participation of 30 African leaders, the host country, Kenya, said that African leaders are expected to use the summit to make a fresh push on rethinking how to price the risk of the continent, and to boost the investment and help for more flows into the key sectors. How would you elaborate on this approach?
Yes, it is of course it is it's very clear that in the summit agenda that the issues the issues that are on the agenda are related to peace and security, to sustainable finance, to reform of the international financing system, to of course to focus on the energy sector, on the green manufacturing and development of the blue economy, of course digital transformation and artificial intelligence are very high on the agenda also, and the climate change, because Kenya is leading the world in the innovation, in the investment in climate change and the regional integration issues. So this is what the Kenyan Minister of Foreign Affairs have shed light on about the summit highlights.
Yes. Also, Your Excellency, Ambassador Shalaby, the African Union aims to set up a continental credit ratings agency that supporters say will provide a more accurate assessment of the African risk. How do you see this step?
Yes, it is of course excellent step by the African Union, and of course it shows how much it is important to have relations between the North and the South, and this will promote this will promote the relationship not only in the case of not only in politics and economics, but also in climate, and to have an importance to shed importance on the risks that are facing the African continent, and of course the potential benefits of artificial intelligence and climate initiatives that will be discussed, especially in the small business ventures that have been that will be discussed in this summit, and will show the areas of cooperation and investment between African countries and Europe. And this will be also discussed in the G7, which will take place in France the next month at the end of June.
Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Shalaby, deals worth more than $1 billion were announced on Sunday during a state visit between French President Emmanuel Macron and Kenya's President William Ruto. How do you read this move?
The Egyptian-Kenyan relations are long-term cooperation between the two countries, and I expect that after 6 years of diplomatic relations, the ties between the two countries are very close, and especially that the two leaders are going to have joint talks on economic cooperation, on security in the Red Sea, in the Horn of Africa, and of course water management and trade, because as you know, Egypt and Kenya are members in the COMESA free trade area, and this will also help them in order to boost exchange and trade and the export between the exports between Egypt and Kenya.
Yes.
And also investment in projects like renewable energy, solar energy, and technology, high-tech business, small businesses like. And also green energy strategies are going to be discussed between the two leaders. Also, Egypt is supporting, Kenya is supporting Egypt in the water infrastructure, including groundwater drilling and rain harvesting. And also there is a consensus between Egypt and Kenya on Nile Basin issues.
Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Shalaby, investments in clean energy and artificial intelligence, also in other areas, are also expected to be announced. How is Africa placed in these specific areas?
Well, these areas are very important, because when Egypt hosted the International Climate Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, it has represented the African initiative in the global problem of climate, and it has created a fund that will include all the businesses that are focused on renewable energy and on climate change, and will help those countries who are suffering from the devastating situation of the change of climate in Africa. So the artificial intelligence is also a new market for small businesses and for Africa, especially after the digital transformation and the speed in the use of technology in all the countries that have this technology. So it is good that Egypt is pioneer in this regard.
Yes, Your Excellency Ambassador Shalaby, Kenya's foreign minister said that price risking means that African states are no longer penalized by the perception they are riskier than peer countries. How would you comment on this statement?
Yes, of course, because this is why the African countries have decided to be part of or to contribute to the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is keeping them from the risks of change of prices, whether it is in food prices or in fertilizers, or because of the international challenges and the wars that are happening, whether it is in Ukraine or in Iran. Those two crises, the war in Iran and the war in Ukraine, are handicapping the food sector and the fertilizers market. And this is, of course, going to affect all the African countries who are importing fertilizers and who are exporting food, food products. So it is important that the countries who are suffering from the risk of higher prices to get together and to eliminate trade barriers and to have economic diversification in order to have more national commodity dependence and depend on their resilience in their economic structures.
Yes, I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information. Your Excellency Ambassador Sou'ad Shalaby, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for joining us over the phone with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of Africa Today. My name is Amal Mukhtar. Thank you for watching.